Radio Free Santa Clarita presents The Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. Episode 138, Republican candidate for the 25th Congressional District, former Congressman Steve Knight. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to just say everybody, since this goes up on the internet for all infinity, all time. This is Thanksgiving weekend, 2019, and I appreciate you taking the time during the holidays to meet with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
First off, I have a beef with you. Where's my T-shirt? I wanted a selfie. I gave you a podcast shirt.
That's true. I still have it.
Well, I want a selfie. I'm going to hold you to that, okay?
Okay, all right.
So I guess the first question, obviously, is what have you been up to since the last time we talked?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, when you lose an election, you got to go work. So I went out, built a business. It's Knight Consulting, and got contracts and helping people with kind of local and state and county issues. Not any lobbying or stuff like that.
Why didn't you want to get into the lobbying stuff? Or?
Well, I can't lobby at the federal level for a year.
Okay.
And, literally a lot of businesses need help in kind of maneuvering how they get things done.
Right.
And it's not a whole lot of the end game, which might be lobbying to get a legislation or something like that, but it's a lot of just understanding how things work. So that's kind of where I've come in.
I mean, you never had a goal to maybe a year later to get into lobbying? I mean, it seems like that's such a lucrative opportunity.
I don't know. I don't know that I would ever lobby at the federal level. I mean, I might.
Yeah.
If I did, I would want to lobby with the aerospace industry.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's my passion. But I want to do something I like.
The real question I have for you is, if someone had told you 6 months ago you would be here talking to me about running for Congress again, what would you have said? Did you think?
Well, I don't know. I probably would have said, no, I won't. Things change. I think a lot of people have asked me a million questions over the last couple of months, especially over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And things change. And this is a very different situation that most people don't see themselves in, where a representative steps down. So here I am.
Were you kind of recruited, or was it something you just thought, well, I'll come back and do it? Or?
Oh, well, a lot of people asked me. I had an awful lot of people from the district, and then DC started asking me.
Right.
So I said, okay, well, let's look into it, and we took a little bit of time, and I talked to my family, and my sons were on board, and my wife was on board, so we're doing it.
Why wasn't, I think the question, Lee Barnathan, actually, I spoke with him last night, and he said, well, you've got to ask him this question.
Okay.
And it was like, okay.
He normally asks me every question.
No, he said, why? Why not? I mean, if you wanted to be in Congress again, why didn't you already have planned on running against Katie again? I mean,
there's an absolute good reason for that. When I lost, I didn't have a job. I didn't have work.
Right.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And so looking forward, I thought, you know what? I got to go out and work, and I got to, you can't just leave everything on your wife and say, you take care of it, honey. So I went out and I built a business.
Okay.
And my business does very well.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with how that has kind of progressed. But now it's got me into a situation where, the Congresswoman resigned.
Right.
I can run. In January or December of last term, it would have been really hard. I would have been telling my wife, you know what, pay the bills, and I'll go run.
Okay.
Now, I've always wanted to be in Congress, and I've made no exception to that. I've wanted to be in Congress, and I really want to be in Congress this term too. But things change.
Well, first off, I'm just, and I don't expect you to talk a lot about it, but I'm just, what is your opinion about what happened with Katie Hill and the whole situation? There are some that are saying, well, it's her own fault. She put herself in this situation. There are others that are saying it was revenge porn. she was kind of a victim of the situation. What do you think about it? I mean,
yeah. So it's an interesting and weird and difficult and even sad situation. It really is. But the reason she had to resign was because of inappropriate relationships that caused either an ethics violation at the House.
Well, none of that was proven. I mean, it wasn't
proven because she resigned.
Right. Okay.
So that would be the next question is, if there is no investigation, then did she do anything wrong or did they prove anything? Well, that would be up to you to talk to Katie Hill and say, well, why did you resign if there was nothing wrong?
Yes.
So it's just me kind of looking from the outside and saying, they were going to start an ethics investigation, so there was probably something that she said, I better leave.
I'm curious about, she was in Congress for about 18 months or a year, not even a year, excuse me. My math is way off. The Kentucky education. But there were a couple of bills that were passed, and I'm just curious, if you had been in office, would you have supported the campaign finance bill that passed?
So I've always supported a form of campaign finance.
Okay.
So I believe that there is a lot of kind of money and push and involvement in campaigns that probably should be looked at.
Okay.
So I don't know that I would support her bill.
She co-sponsored. I don't think it was her.
Yeah, it wasn't her bill. I don't know that she had a bill authored by her. But yeah, I've always said that there's an awful lot of money and there's an awful lot of support from a lot of different groups. It's not just corporations. It's not just wealthy people. A lot of different groups that make elections very viable almost in some regards. The fact that we had a sizable amount of money in this last election and then the flood that came over the top of us was pretty amazing from what Katie Hill's machine did. So for her to say there should be campaign finance reform, I think that we've got to look at all the facets.
Well, do you think Citizens United is justified? Do you agree with that idea, or?
I think there's a lot of things we should look at there. Yes, absolutely do. Okay.
The other bill she passed voted for was the background check bill for guns. I think it's H.R. 8. I think.
Golly, okay.
Was that something you would support, or?
So I guess the first thing I would say is that, she and the Democrats took over for 9 months. For 4 years, everyone protested my office about three things: school safety, gun legislation, immigration. So in 9 months of taking over, we haven't seen an immigration bill. So obviously that wasn't that important to them. We haven't seen a lot of gun bills, so that wasn't that important. A background check bill, and I'll get back to that.
Okay.
And we haven't seen a school safety bill. So if we're going to say, when you're in charge, this is what we want, but then now I'm in charge, that's not what we're going to do. So let's put all the cards on the table here. If you're going to say those are our three big items and you don't pass a bill or you don't bring a bill to the floor, important. So on background checks, I've always been very supportive.
So you would vote yes for that bill then?
Well, I don't know the bill in its full form, so I don't know. But I've been very, very supportive of background checks. I've been very, very supportive of making sure that if you're going to buy a weapon, I want you to be a responsible gun owner, and we can check these things. I've always been supportive of that. Absolutely.
And just to be fair, the immigration bill, I believe the issue on that has been more about allocation of money for building a wall.
Okay, so then bring up a bill. You're in the House and you are the Speaker. Bring up a bill so there's a vote. I would love to see that. I would love to see a vote on DACA. Just a vote on DACA and say, hey, look, we're going to say that DACA is here as not as citizens, but they are here as legal residents. Bring that vote up. They haven't.
What, do you support DACA?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And I've said that all along.
Right.
And I was even part of a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats that said, let's bring up DACA, let's bring up TPS, and just have votes on those.
I think, one of the things that, it's interesting. I was listening to our first podcast together, and it was you were talking about Obama and as president and Chuck Schumer as as the Senate Majority Leader, and how Congress at the time, which was a Republican majority, was bringing all these bills to the Senate, and nothing would be brought to the floor to go to Obama.
Right.
Now we're in the exact same situation where McConnell won't bring anything to the floor to even for a vote.
Yep.
What about, and I'm seriously proposing this idea for you to take to Congress about some kind of law that, I don't think Pelosi or McConnell would ever bow to this, but that if a bill passes by one house, it has to be brought to a vote on the other floor. Why isn't that a law? Does that make sense to you? Or
rules of the House, rules of the Senate.
Is that democracy though? If one person, if McConnell prevents or Schumer prevents
I'm
anything,
good with voting. I'm good with voting.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Stephen, that we should have votes.
Right.
And we are elected to go vote.
Right.
I've been in office in certain levels. I've never abstained. I've never said, I ain't voting on this. I vote. So I like voting. I think that it's right. I think that a lot of people don't want to vote on certain things because they're going to take guff back at their district or with their friends or whoever. But that's why you're sent there. It isn't easy. There's a lot of votes that I've had to go up there and go, boy, I'm going to go back and hear this.
And you have.
And I have a million times.
Yeah.
But that is a big part of my job, is to go up and vote.
Right.
So
is that,
rules of the House. So I can't say how this would change.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but I like voting, and I think that the House should vote, and then the Senate should vote.
And, what about some kind of idea of like a law or making it some kind of rule?
I'm good with that. I'm not even good with the 60 majority. So I'm good with knocking that down into a plain majority of 51.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your time in Congress. Can you tell me about what are some of the accomplishments you're most proud about while you were there?
We had a lot of accomplishments. The biggest accomplishment is our casework. Our casework was always at the top, probably 5 or 6% in Congress of getting things done for the district, and that means when somebody comes into the office and they've got a federal issue, we get something done. So that's always number one.
Okay.
We passed a veterans health care bill that was the first of its kind in the country. It's now in this district and in the 23rd Congressional District. It should start to spread across the country because I left Congress. I was kind of the lead on this. So it's stalled a little bit. But we have a brand new veterans health care system where veterans can go into clinics that aren't VA clinics and get health care. That's unlike anywhere else in the world. We did a $47 million grant for highway expansion that's going to directly impact, directly impact Santa Clarita Valley. It's going to help the Antelope Valley traffic that comes down, of course, and the 126 traffic, and it'll probably alleviate some other traffic. But those were big items right off the bat. But the other issues that we did was we put, I think, 58 kids into the academies. Over my 4 years, 58 kids, and let me get my math right. Actually, with the last one, I think we were over 70. You only get 4 a year.
Yeah.
So 4 times 4 is 16. Those are the years I was in.
Yeah.
So if we're over 70, how do we do that? Well, I had a point person that went out to the Annapolis, went out to West Point, went out to the Merchant Marines, went out to the Air Force Academy, got the connections, figured out how everything works, and that's how we put over 70 kids into the academies instead of 16. We're very good at that. And we even took spots from other congressional members that said, oh, we don't have any good candidates or whatever. I said, we have plenty. We have plenty. So those were really big kind of items that we did. But we also wrote a whole lot of bills that were very impactful. One is our school safety. Our school safety bill was one of the first of its kind.
Well, let's talk about that. What does it do exactly?
So it puts in a good amount of money, $50 million, which isn't a lot for a federal level bill. I understand that. But it has steps every year after that. So it'll go from 50 to certain. And I said, look, we need to get to about $1 billion to make sure that this is working. It gave you about 5 or 6 options. It gave you options to hire more deputies or more school police if you wanted to. Gave you options to do things at the entry level or at the entry point of the school, which could be metal detectors, 1-point entry, which I advocate for, 1-point entries, 1-point exits. It gave you school safety at the classroom level. So you could have bolted doors, you could have the button at the teacher's desk, you know, all these things. It gave you all of those. It gave you training. Training to the teachers, to the administrators, gave training to the police and to the deputies. And we get a lot of training. When I was in LAPD, I got a lot of training. Columbine started that whole process of school shooting and active shooter training. But it gives more there. So it gives you all of those types of things that you can use at the district level. So the district here, Hart might say, we need this. Somewhere in La Jolla said, we need this, and North Dakota needs this. You can use it for that. And I thought that was a very good effort. I wanted to make $50 million. I wanted to make that about $1 billion or $1.5 billion.
Right.
But they wouldn't let me. They said, you got to start at this level. That's why we started at $50 million. Some people have asked me, $50 million, that's not a lot of money.
Right.
I get it. So that was a big issue right off the bat, that it wasn't something because of school shootings. It's because we want to stop school shootings.
Right.
And there are many bills to put money into getting counselors on campuses for mental health issues. I fully support those. I fully support getting counselors on campus. I fully support kids not, seeing something and then saying, golly, I don't want to be a narc or something, so I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
I think that campaign is starting to push out now. If you see something, you read something, you hear something, you say something.
But you're still against the idea of banning AR-15s, assault weapons, or?
I think that if we go down the route of banning weapons, and we're going to ban them on school shootings, we're going to keep on banning weapons. So we've got to look at how we're going to do anything with weapons. I think background checks is a huge issue. I'm a big supporter of, if you do not maintain your weapons, there should be crimes, and there are crimes for that, and I'm okay with penalizing people.
Should a parent or an adult be held responsible if a child gets a gun?
I think parents should lock up their guns, and I think that there should be something there that says you are responsible for ownership of that gun.
Okay.
And nobody else should be able to get it. If you break into my house, you can't get to my guns.
Okay.
You couldn't.
I'd like to clear something up, because the last time we talked, it made Mother Jones. So, the fact that this little dog and pony show made Mother Jones was kind of a cool thing, because we've made Breitbart and we've made Mother Jones. So we've hit both sides here. So
there you go.
I'd asked you about accepting money from the NRA. Then Mother Jones actually ran an article that said that you had taken money when you said that you did not on my podcast.
We didn't. After we said we weren't going to, we didn't take any money.
Okay, but I believe they found like a check or something, or a donation that was registered afterwards.
I think we cleared all that up. There was a donation that came in after that that we'd sent back.
You did send it back?
Yeah.
Are you accepting money from the NRA this time?
No.
No, not at all?
No.
Okay. We just, after the Saugus issue that happened a couple of weeks ago, we did a podcast with Moms Demand Action. They have emphasized they'd really like to have a meeting with you.
Sure.
I told them, are you up for that?
I'm available for anybody. I come in here, Stephen.
You're desperate. No, I do appreciate you making the time, honestly. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the votes that you did in the last term.
Sure.
Okay, because we talked about, like, for example, there was the vote to repeal Obamacare. The attitude the Republicans had was repeal and replace.
Absolutely.
Now, but the vote has been to repeal, but the Republicans have never brought anything forward to replace it. I mean, how do you justify the vote?
I think that it's difficult. The vote went through the House of Representatives and stalled in the Senate, and so it never passed.
Right.
I am a proponent of replacing. I'm a proponent of making sure that people get coverage in healthcare. You can't keep going down one road, and I think Obamacare is going down a road where it's costing more and more, and there are more problems and more problems, without keeping the private sector involved in healthcare and allowing government to have a role in healthcare. I just don't know that we've gotten there yet. I think that before all of this started, before President Obama got elected, there was a Walgreens, Walmart, Target issue where they said we will put a clinic in every store. If we do that, everyone is within, I think, 20 miles from a clinic in the United States of America. I fully supported that. I think that that's a great way. I think that you should be able to go into a clinic when you need clinic items.
Right.
You shouldn't have to go to an emergency room when it's a clinic item.
Right.
In other words, if I need to go in and get stitches for something or things like that, I should be able to go into a clinic and I should be able to be covered in that clinic. Or, if somebody wants to, they can come in and they can pay cash. They say, look, I need 5 stitches. 5 stitches is X number of dollars. Here's my cash. I'm out of here.
Well, I mean, the thing that the left has been slamming you on more than anything else is the idea that you voted basically to remove coverage on pre-existing conditions. How do you respond to that?
Well, if they look at my amendment, I put in $8 billion for pre-existing conditions.
Okay.
That was my amendment.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that pre-existing conditions were covered. If the $8 billion was not going to cover it, then we could revisit that and put more money in. But we had looked at it and said that with pre-existing conditions, $8 billion was going to cover this. So that's why my amendment, Steve Knight, put that amendment in for pre-existing conditions.
Okay, well, that's honestly, that's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
Do you think that Obamacare itself should be just tanked completely? I mean, is there anything good that you see?
I think there's a lot of good things.
Okay, so why not try and fix what's there?
I would love to. Okay. I would love to fix a lot of things.
Okay,
in government, it's really difficult to go in and just say, you know what? We're going to fix this.
Okay.
You're going to sit around a table and you're going to do this and hammer all these things out.
As hard as it was to get Obamacare through, and you just said that there are some good things about it.
Absolutely.
Why throw it away completely and then try and start from the ground up again and go for that same kind of struggle that existed?
And I think that you're even seeing it in the Democrat debates where people are talking about there's a difference on the far left that want to go with basically 100% government-controlled healthcare system. And you've got people like Vice President Biden who says, that's not the way to go. And you've got probably 3 or 4 different levels just in the Democrat presidential election of how to do this. So healthcare is not just Stephen, I want you to be covered, here it is, that's it. It's a lot harder than
I mean, Amy Klobuchar has proposed, and Biden as well, to give him credit, the idea of just adding a public option to Obamacare. Well, how do you feel about that idea?
Well, I think that we could go into Obamacare, and I'm all for this and saying, look, this works, and this works. But we also know that we need to have the ability for people that have private insurance to be able to keep their private insurance.
Okay, well, a public
keep their
option
doctors.
Would do that,
Yep. So I think that we can get there, and I think healthcare will get there. I think the fact is we've allowed healthcare to get too convoluted and too difficult. That's why it's hard to change. I think that Obamacare came in and was a drastic change, and repealing it is a drastic change. There's no doubt about it. But I think over the next few years we're going to get there, and I think the insurance companies are seeing this too, because the insurance companies know that healthcare is going to change, and they can't just do kind of whatever they want as far as coverage. That coverage is going to be tiered down, going to kind of be like auto insurance.
It is 1/6 of our economy, but which to me, that has always been my argument about justifying the problems with Obamacare is the idea that you're going to have problems when you shake up 1/6 of the economy in some way. That being said, I don't understand why you would try and repeal it completely and replace it when you know it's going to shake things up that much again.
It's a good point. I'm fully invested in when we repeal it, we're going to replace it.
Right, okay.
Now, the replacement wasn't going to be something that everybody on the left was going to say, boy, that was great. I'm glad we did that.
Right.
So I'm also a proponent of getting together and starting to meld some of these things. And, it's the same thing with immigration. That's why I got part of that group. There was a lot of things in there that the Republicans didn't like. There was a lot of things in there that Democrats didn't like. But when we melded it down into one bill and only like 3 or 4 issues, the Republicans said tolerable. The Democrats said tolerable. And it gave something to, everybody. It wasn't giving something to Republicans or giving something to Democrats. It was kind of fixing some of the issues that would help our economy and help some people.
Well, see, and I agree with you on that. I think that ultimately a bill to get passed has to be a consensus between both sides. Nobody's completely happy,
Nope.
but something gets done.
Right.
We agree on that, right? Okay.
If that was the fact, everybody would be supporting Yang for president, right?
For the $1,000.
Yes, everybody would. But they're not.
Yeah.
So obviously, this is more difficult than.
But I mean, I want to move on to a couple of other things. But do you agree that the idea of a public option is a good idea? I mean, is that something you would support?
I think that yes, if we do it right, then yes, there should be
a public option.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know if what your take is on the situation with immigration right now. I've report, there are thousands of these kids, and I know you won't say cages. I'm going to call them cages because that's what they are. What are your thoughts on the problems with immigration? I have felt that.
You're going to have to expand this show to about 5 or 6 hours.
I trust you. You can do 25 words or less.
Okay.
No, a lot of people have said, well, the immigration problem is so terrible, blah blah blah, and everything like. And I've kind of said, well, the reason a lot of it is it's Trump has threatened to close the borders, and what's happened is that situation where when you never go to your favorite restaurant until they announce they're going to close.
Right.
I mean, it's caused a push because people are afraid of the borders being closed completely, and intensified the problem.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
How difficult do you think it is to come across the border from Mexico to the United States? Citizen, how difficult do you think it is?
Well, I know it's very easy. I know it's very easy.
Okay. It could take you from half an hour to 5 hours to come back across the border. So it's not easy. I mean, it's a time-consuming effort to come across the border, unless you have a global pass or something like that.
Right.
If you're just a regular guy and you're coming from Tijuana across the border,
right,
it could take you up to 5 hours. So obviously, it's very, very difficult.
Okay.
I'll start with immigration here. I have been very, very outspoken about immigration. In fact, when the Democrats took over the House, I thought, we're going to finally get some immigration passed. Because I've been very, very outspoken. I've been outspoken about DACA. I've been outspoken about TPS. I've been outspoken about what we do with large groups of workers. And I'm not going to pin them into one area, but I would say agriculture and building trades. And I think there can be, and there should be, ways of being able to come over and work legally, pay taxes, and be able to go back. I am an advocate of all of that.
Okay.
So for people to say, oh, you're a Republican, you're against immigration, I always say, boy, have you heard what I've been talking about?
It's not that. I understand that. What I have an issue with is, I mean, to me, I was, and I know and everybody else that listens to the show, I'm not a fan of Trump, but to me, the point where he really crossed a line was when he started locking and separating families and locking them away in cages. That to me was crossing a line that it wasn't the United States anymore.
I don't think what's going on at the border is right.
Okay.
I don't think our immigration policy is working.
Yeah.
And I can give you a couple my own examples. It's not just my wife and going through all of the issues of legal immigration, which was a pain.
Yeah, I know it is.
But all of the issues that I have gone through, I've been trying to get my global pass, for 8 months now. I keep getting a thing on my global pass, even though I've paid my fee. Because of the issues that are happening at the border, this is going to take a while.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing I get back every email or every request I get. So for 8 months, I've paid my money. I should get my global pass or should get an interview and can't. Now, I don't think that's fair. I am a U.S. citizen and I'm trying to get a global pass. So I should be able to get this, but obviously that's not working. I did come back from Tijuana. Took me 4 hours and 40 minutes to come across the border.
Things have changed since the last time I went to Tijuana.
4 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow.
So,
and I've been to Tijuana. That ain't worth it.
And I know a lot of candidates that like to say, I've been to the border.
Right.
That's great. I've been to the border 23 times.
Yeah.
23 times. So all these candidates that say, I've been to the border, and they like to pump their chest out and say, yay, I've been to the border. Great. I've been to the border 23 times at different places in different states. So,
is a wall a solution then?
I think a wall is a solution in certain areas.
Is it? I mean,
yes, it is.
Really? Why so? I mean, it doesn't even seem practical. Then you're talking about eminent domain on property.
I'm not talking about changing a lot of the things, but there are, and even the Democrats have said this, there are areas that you have to have a barrier, or you're just going to let people go back and forth.
No one's going to disagree with that. But Trump has literally described a concrete wall across.
I've never said that. I've always said that you've got to have some sort of, and I don't know if it's going to be a wall in some ports. It's going to be, electronic surveillance in some point. It's going to be different things.
Right.
I am for border security. There's no doubt. I've said that a million times. I am for border security. But that can be in different ways. And we've seen that in Afghanistan where we have secured bases without a structure. So we can do it in different ways, but there are certain places where you need a barrier, wall, whatever.
How do you feel about the situation with the separation of families and the kids?
I don't support that. No.
Would you stand up and would you say that openly, publicly?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And I think families should stay together. But remember, there's also an issue if somebody comes across the border and it's illegal, then they're going to have to go through some sort of a process.
Sure, so I don't think anybody disagrees.
They're going to have to go through that process, and they have to go through that process. So, if you come across as a family unit, then yes, you can keep the family unit together. And I've heard a lot of different reasons of why that happens and all this, and I'm still think you can keep the family unit together.
All right. We have a new thing on the show, which I'm
always looking for the new things, Stephen.
My kid asked a question. He has two questions here, and I'll let you pick between A or B.
How old is he?
He's 8.
Perfect.
Okay, and he wants to. You want question A or question B?
Take A.
Okay, the question is.
Hey, Congressman Knight, do you like Donald Trump? Why or why not?
So I have met the president 3 times. I've talked to him. One time we talked about golf.
Okay.
For about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay.
It was very enjoyable. We didn't talk about politics. We just talked about golf and our games and all that, and that was fine. And it was a good experience with the president. But I haven't had a lot of interaction. I met President Obama in 2 years. I was congressman for 2 years. I met him for 22 seconds one time.
Okay.
It was in the White House at the Christmas party. So you don't have a lot of interactions with presidents. The speaker does, and the.
Let me build on that then.
Okay, sure. I know where he's going. I'll answer that. I know where he's going.
Okay.
I don't like a lot of things that President Trump tweets out. I don't like a lot of things that President Trump says about other people. So I've been pretty clear about that. I do like a lot of the policies that President Trump.
What policies do you like?
Well, I think our economy is moving in a positive direction.
Okay.
I really do. I think that there's, and a lot of things that people don't see. There was a lot of red tape and a lot of regulations that were changed and maybe softened. And, I'm a person that says if there's a regulation for a reason, then fine.
All right.
But it doesn't mean you leave the regulation in place for 100 years and you never revisit it.
Okay.
The first year President Trump came in and he revisited a lot of regulations that needed to be softened. And I think that's a big reason why our economy is moving in a positive direction. And that's a reason why small business is willing to take a risk again.
Okay.
So I do like a lot of the policies that he's done, and I think that he's gotten the country going in a positive direction. But to answer your son's question, I would like him to soften some of the things that he does on social media. And I know we're living in social media right now.
Right.
And social media is everything to a lot of people. But it doesn't mean you just need to go out there and put something out there for shock factor.
What about this pardoning that he just recently did of the Navy SEAL? Everybody testified against this guy.
Yep.
The Secretary of the Navy resigned over the issue.
Yep.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I'm not going to plead the fifth on this, but I'm going to say that I don't know enough about it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this, that every single person
I get it.
Testified against him. He took a picture next to a dead teenage kid. Now, granted, he was an ISIS kid, but he took a picture of somebody he killed, a selfie of that.
I understand what he did.
And, Trump basically said, "Nah, he's a warrior," and pardoned him.
And I think that President Trump's, or any president, I'm not going to just say President Trump, when you use the pardon, it's got to be a pardon so that you can say this was an issue that didn't reach the penalty that he got, or the evidence was wrong, or something right. to that effect. So I know, and I've read some articles about this, but I don't know enough about it to say.
Well, let's talk on a broader term then.
Sure.
Should the president undermine a court-martial that is taking place through the Navy, for the military, or whatever? I mean, it doesn't that, in a certain sense, send a message?
I'm only going to answer what I would do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
But I think the UCMJ works very clearly. They work very actively.
Right.
And when a court-martial happens, a court-martial is something that is kind of A to Z and nuts to bolts. It really is. So court-martials are very, very extensive.
All right. When you were running against Katie, Katie won by, I think, an 8-point margin.
8 points.
And this district is not a Trump district, or
it's a more Democrat-registered district.
Yes. I mean, what do you think happened in that election? Do you think it was Katie? Do you think it was the Democrats in general? I mean, or do you think it was something you did that cost the election to you?
I mean, the candidate's always got to take the blame for it. So I take the blame that I lost an election, or I didn't win. How about that? The candidate's got to take the blame.
Yeah.
There's a million people out there that give me a million different reasons why I lost, but in the end, I lost.
Okay,
So
well, I take the bullet.
I take full responsibility for it.
Yeah.
I think there were some things that we look back on that I won't tell you that were changing quite a bit. And I think you'll see that in this campaign. This campaign will be way different than any of my other campaigns because we've hired a lot of private people, a lot of people that are good at certain things that don't do anything with politics.
Well, I will say this: it was the easiest I've ever had situation to get you on here. So, so you're definitely very approachable this time. Not to say you weren't before, but even more so now.
Yeah, so it'll be different.
What do you think about some of it's a different situation in this jungle primary with the election itself because the Democrats had 3 Democrats running against each other, or actually 4, and now here it's the other way around pretty much. There's Christy Smith, the Democrat, and then you've got George Papadopoulos, who has filed, and Mike Garcia, who's already in the race as well. What makes you the better Republican over the other 2? Can you tell me what your thoughts are?
Oh boy, a lot of reasons.
Okay.
One is I was your congressman for 4 years. There's only one person in this race that knows how to do the job. So these are 2 elections. One is for 5 months, and one is to see who's going to be your Congress member in November.
It's so confusing, by the way.
It is. It's very confusing. But so for 5 months, from May till November, 5 or 6 months, you're going to have somebody in there that knows what they're doing.
Right.
And I think that perfectly that fits me. I was a congressman 10 months ago or 12 months ago. I know what I'm doing right off the bat, day one. I'm going to jump in right off the bat. Nobody else can do that.
Okay.
So that's a big issue right there. The second issue is, the election aside, and whatever caused me to lose, and all of those are on me, but whatever caused me to lose, I don't think a lot of them were because I didn't do a good job. Some people might not have liked me, but the fact that we went out and we did our casework, we did our outreach to the communities, we did our aerospace. We were the voice of aerospace. Even the speaker called me that in a speech. We looked out for our veterans, and we looked out for small business. We did the things that I said I was going to do before I got elected, and you elected me.
Right.
So I don't think it was those issues. Now, we're expanding quite a bit this time. We're going to expand into infrastructure. We're going to expand into school safety like you've never seen, because I am a police officer, and I do get a lot of these issues and what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
So we're going to go in a positive direction like we used to.
Yeah.
But we're going to expand a lot of those other issues. And then the last thing is going into Congress is difficult. It is. It's difficult to go in the minority. It's really difficult to go in the majority because things go really quickly and really fast. And when conference meets and you look around and there's 200 people in the room and you think, I don't know what I'm doing. That's what happens to about 40 congressional members that get elected that have never had any experience before. It just does. I had a friend of mine who had never been elected before. He came up to me after about 6 months and he said, Steve, how do I do this? And I looked at him and I said, this is how you do it. And I told him, and then I walked away and I thought, oh my gosh, I learned that 9 years ago. So, and it's not that he wasn't a smart person, it's just it wasn't in his bandwidth.
Right.
And so to learn that is a long process.
Well, I will give you credit. I do think, and I'm going to. The Democrats are going to get on me for saying this, but I do.
You don't think Republicans will get on me for something?
No, I do think that your client reach, or as far as the constituents reaching out, and when they would call your office, there was a response that you guys worked cases really well. I do think you were very connected to this district when you were congressman. But I think some people would complain that you, as far as, whoa.
Not me.
Anyway, sorry about that. But I do think some people would say that you were not as reaching out to enough of the district as far as both sides.
That's a good point.
I will say this: the last time I saw you give a town hall, it was a yell situation where nobody wanted to hear you talk, and it wasn't really fair. But I mean, how do you respond to beyond that?
That's a good point, and I take all that criticism to make me better. I do. I've reached out to a lot of groups in the last couple of weeks that I never talked to. Or I never have talked to.
Okay.
Because they didn't reach out to me, I didn't reach out to them, and I have. And I think that's fair criticism. I think if you've got a congressman who's a Republican, and you say, golly, reached out to his Republican groups or conservative groups or whatever, but he doesn't reach out to this group, why? That's fair criticism. I say the same thing about a Democrat who stays in their lane and doesn't do anything.
Right, yeah.
So we're trying to be better on that, and we are. And we're trying to reach out to way more groups that you wouldn't necessarily say, boy, that's they're going to like him. So you're going to see a lot, maybe, hopefully not more yell places, but I think people that are going to give me real tough questions. And I've learned a lot, too. I've learned 4 years of being in Congress and the Senate and the Assembly. I've learned that people do want just straightforward answers, and I like that about that. But you're going to take criticism no matter what you say, because there's going to be a group out there that says, didn't like what you said.
Well, I think my suggestion, it would be more town halls in the sense of don't give them like one opportunity to yell. I mean, if there were, I think the reason.
How many town halls were there in the last 10 months?
In the last for Katie? Oh, geez, I don't know. She made several appearances, but I think she did one town hall that ended up nasty. Okay, but
so just to keep
apples
and apples.
No,
here.
no, I'm not even talking about. I'm making suggestions for you. Is a sense of as forget about anybody else. I'm just saying that if you are making yourself available at regular town halls every 3 or 4 months or whatever, I know that's hard to do, but it doesn't give the opportunity for it's one town hall that he's doing. Let's all go get him.
And Stephen, I agree with you.
Yeah.
When I was in the Assembly and the Senate, we loved town halls. We did them about every 3 months. We loved them.
Okay.
The amount of difficulty in these town halls, the last couple were really tough. They were. And if you're going to yell at me, you can yell at me. That's fine.
I found it very frustrating.
They're frustrating. I think that's the best reason they're frustrating.
Yeah.
I want to go in and I want to answer questions, and if somebody says, God, I don't like that answer, then great. That's fine. But I want to go in and answer questions and have some good feedback. And I'm not saying you got to sit there with your hands on your lap and not say anything. But they got really frustrating, the over amount of yelling, and then I couldn't get an answer out, and then I get frustrated, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to get frustrated.
There are some that would say that
spit it out.
Well, some have called you a liar. as far as some of the things you say, and the way that you do it when you answer questions is to spin it around a lot, throw out a lot of like numbers and things like that, and kind of create a certain kind of red tape around the answer to where it's almost hard to respond to unless you know all the inner workings of the issue itself.
Honestly, I try and not put in stuff that people might not have knowledge about.
Right.
But with social media, I think that some people know more than I would ever know. The amount of things,
or in some cases, not know anything at all.
But social media is that kind of that new universe where people can go in there and really throw in information and retract information.
Yeah.
But and I get you, I do. But I can tell you, during a town hall, if I say, I'm for making DACA a kid's residence here, I will get people to yell at me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand how I'm really, really good with immigration. I really am.
I know you
And
are.
the fact that I got protested 100 times in my office really makes it difficult. And I'm trying to. And I bring forward bills and I say, I'm going to vote for this, and I'm going to vote for this. So I get it, though. I get it. I'm listening a lot more this time. Hopefully I'm listening more this time. I'm reaching out to groups that maybe I never did, and maybe they thought that they couldn't reach out to me. We're trying to make it, better.
Okay. Let's have a civics lesson.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy. I'm going to do my best.
Are all three branches of government equal to each other?
They should be, yes. Yes.
Is it the case right now?
I would say that President Trump's got a lot of power right now.
Okay, that's a very diplomatic answer.
No, it's not, because I don't think that the House and the Senate are standing up. I think the House and the Senate should push their power. They really should.
When Congress, when someone in President Trump's office in the White House doesn't answer a subpoena, which was one of the impeachment rules or whatever for Nixon. I mean, what is Congress supposed to do? I mean, you know what I mean? Do you think he's violating the Constitution? Is he not abiding by the Constitution? I mean, he swore an oath to. You swear an oath to.
Yeah, I think if you're subpoenaed, you should go.
Okay, so he is doing an impeachable offense then. Is that correct?
Until you get to the judiciary and they do the articles of impeachment.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well,
Come on, it's simple. If they're not compliant to a subpoena, and you can look at past law with Nixon, is that an impeachable offense?
I don't know that would be an impeachable offense.
Why not?
Well,
I mean, if Congress cannot provide oversight to what the president is doing, they are not doing their job. They are no longer an equal branch of government.
Remember, and I'm not going to get too involved about this, but you got the Intelligence Committee and you got the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah.
I think the Judiciary Committee is going to be more where it's going to go into the kind of court of law. They're going to get the articles of impeachment if there are any. And they're going to go through their process.
Well, you're talking about specifics. I'm talking about on an abstract.
I'm not talking about specifics.
Okay.
I really am not.
Okay.
Remember, certain committees do certain things.
Right.
The Intelligence Committee is, in my opinion, almost overstepping their bounds right now in doing this. And I don't know how it got into the Intelligence Committee, and I don't know how this whole process of the last 2 years has been in the Intelligence Committee for 2 years of he got elected, we're going to do something. We're going to do this, that didn't work. We're going to do this, that didn't work. We're going to do this, that didn't work. And that's how it's been going for 2 years in the Intelligence Committee. So there's been an offense and a defense. I don't know why that is in the Intelligence Committee. I really don't, other than they're trying to say that there is something that is impeachable in there from some of these interviews.
Well, I do have some good news for you. Okay. I have a friend who knows somebody who is head of a big Republican super PAC.
Okay.
They want to throw all their money toward a certain Republican candidate in this district. But first, I need you to do me a favor. Is that okay?
I don't know what the favor is.
Is it okay to do that? What Trump did with the Zelensky in Ukraine?
Okay, was this a hypothetical?
Hypothetical,
Okay.
sure.
No, I don't think you should be able to do that. How about that?
Okay, is that an impeachable offense, though? I mean, it's essentially a bribe, is it not? To withhold congressional money.
You cannot say that if you do something, I'm going to do this to me. And I'll give you an example. If I was doing a piece of legislation,
right,
and you were a powerful person,
yeah,
and then you came back and said, oh boy, if you get this passed, I'm going to make sure that all of my friends donate money to your campaign.
Right.
I got to cut that right there and say I'm done. I can no longer work on this legislation. I can no longer do anything with it. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm severing the ties with you.
Right.
So,
but I mean, the
reason I know that is because that happened to me, and that's what we did.
Okay, but let's get more,
that's as specific as I can get.
Oh, come on, Congressman.
I mean, it happened to me.
Yeah, okay, but I'm obviously I'm leaning toward this impeachment situation here. I mean, is what he did an impeachable offense? Do you think that it's okay to ask
the transcript off of?
No, come on. You've seen the hearings. I know you've been. Okay, you know there is a whole line of people that have said that this was a definite quid pro quo, that they were withholding money that was allocated by the.
Some people have said it's not to. Just to be fair.
Okay.
They have.
All right, but 2 + 2 = 4. You know that. Okay, I mean. Put yourself in Zelensky's position of a new president who is desperate for help against the Russians, needing the money, needing help, needing to have a meeting with the president. Mm-hmm. And none of that's coming forward until he's told that, you need to do a favor, you need to open this investigation on the Bidens. Is that okay?
I've said all along,
yeah,
just reading off the conversation in the transcript, that I don't think that's the way we should deal with other leaders.
Okay.
I don't. Whether it's impeachable, we're going to find out.
What would you vote?
No, I don't sit on that committee, and I wouldn't sit on that committee.
Oh, you're playing.
I'm not playing anything here.
No, yes, you are. And I tell you, this is what irritates me both sides.
Okay.
And because I got mad at Katie about this the same way, because she said Trump has clearly committed a crime, and I said, well, why aren't you impeaching him then? And she wouldn't. She backed away from it. Now you know the specifics. You've seen the hearings. Mm-hmm. Now, and you've told me, you've said, I'm getting upset here because it bothers me about politicians in general, but you've said to me,
you invite us
the
on.
Constitution comes before party.
It does.
The district comes before party.
The Constitution comes before anybody.
You've seen the evidence, okay? You swore an oath to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Is that an impeachable offense?
I think what he did is not proper.
Okay.
I've said that all along. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm sitting on that committee, do I say this right now, or do I say it at the end of the committee?
I think enough evidence is out there for you to take a stance on it.
Okay, so if we go into a murder trial, at some point you say, we're done, right? And nobody else gets to say anything?
You're playing coy with me. And
I'm
honestly, I think that this is
I don't think this is a fair question for me.
How is it not a fair question?
Because it's not done. Mm-hmm. And so now, if I say something right now,
right,
and somebody comes in and brings in some evidence, and then you say, I got to have him back on. It's not a fair question. It might be a fair question when this is over. It might be a fair question when they've gone through the committee. Have me back on.
I will.
Okay,
we'll do that then. I do want to, we're going to wrap up here, but I do want to ask you just in general about kind of I guess the simplest way I can put it is, what the hell has happened to the Republicans? It is... You consider, the thing I like about you is that you are a moderate, a Republican. I think you would say that. You would say that you have Republican ideals, but you recognize that you have to work with the other side, that the district comes before, party and everything else. But now we see this kind of, it's very commonly called the cult of Trump now, the party of Trump. What happened to, for example, you voted for the tax cut.
Right.
Okay, Republicans are supposed to be fiscally responsible. That increased the deficit by over $1 trillion.
Well, not over $1 trillion, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, but
I get you.
Yep. And I feel like you're kind of doing it now, which bugs me is the support of him, or the like walking that fine line. Like, well, it wasn't really
This
appropriate.
isn't a
but
fine
it's
line.
yeah.
There's no walking here. There's
Okay,
not.
okay.
But there is evidence that will still come out. And
where's that evidence coming from?
I don't know.
They're writing the
and you
articles
don't
now.
know. And you don't know.
Well,
but for you to ask me a question during something,
based on the evidence that exists now,
during something is not fair. It's not.
But
and I figured this would all be about that. I mean, I watched the Democrat debates. I'm like, it's 90 minutes and it's 88 minutes on Trump.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes on
well, there
policies.
are those that, like myself, that are incredibly concerned about the powers that he is taking in this country.
But if you look at the presidential debate, and you've got these 10 people up there, and all you're doing is asking them about who's in the presidency. You're not asking them about how can we fix this, or how can we change this, or how can you do this?
All right.
I just watch these debates and think, boy, you're really handing it to him.
Well,
you're really helping him. And I don't know why they're doing that, especially MSNBC.
I have not been dominating this conversation about Trump with you.
I know.
But
you're doing a good job, though.
No, well, I mean, the last 10 minutes have been about this, but obviously it's, the fourth time this has ever happened in the history of this country.
Right.
It is, and it's going to be an important vote. And I think
it will be an important vote.
You have a district that is not Trump supporting.
Right.
You are a Republican.
Trust me, this question is going to be asked of me 1 million times over the next few months. And you have, but it's still going on. And
well, I mean, by what do you mean? What's going on? I mean, they're drafting the letter of impeachment now.
They are.
But you've seen the hearings. I mean, you've seen the evidence.
I have seen the evidence, but I haven't seen everything. And
what are you looking for then?
We're still going to the judiciary, and it's going to change quite a bit when it goes to the judiciary. Remember, there wasn't a witness that came from the minority party. So if you're going to do that and you're in the majority...
So you think they should have brought Hunter Biden to talk about that?
No, I think the majority party should allow the minority party to bring in or to have a list of witnesses and say, okay, we're going to bring in these three. We're going to bring in these three.
They wanted to bring in Hunter Biden.
Mike?
Was it necessary to hear from Hunter Biden?
I don't know that it was necessary to hear from him. No. But I think they had several witnesses and it was talked about. Now, when you're in charge, you should be fair, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Well, there were those that would argue that the Republicans were trying to throw, a sleight of hand kind of situation to point the finger at Hunter Biden.
I don't know though, because they never got a witness from their list. So if I go into a trial and all the witnesses are from my list, I'm going to win. I'm going to win because it's going to get everybody in the jury box to understand what I'm trying to do. So that's not fair.
The tax cut that you voted for, along with adding to the deficit, I did an informal survey on Facebook. Out of 20 of my friends, none of them are rich,
Fair.
19 of them paid more money last year. How do you justify that?
Well, we looked at it from a whole swath of people. Put it into the calculator, and this was before the vote, and I put in, I think, 50, and I think I put them online of differences. You got one kid, you make this, and this, and so forth. The vast majority paid less. The vast majority. Now, I did say a couple did pay more, and a lot of them were at the wealthier scale. I
don't know about that, Congressman. I'll grant it was an informal poll, but still, I mean...
We can go back, and I've got a couple CPAs that have been looking at this for me, too, because I know this will be a question, too, and say, hey, look, what happened this year?
Yeah,
Because you're past it. I mean, you're past April 15th, so what happened?
I think that you'll find that the majority of the people in this district paid more. That's my belief.
I do not believe that.
You don't believe that?
Believe
okay.
That.
All right.
No, I do not believe that. No.
Let's move on to some fun stuff then, real quick, and then we'll wrap up. Just out of curiosity, who's your favorite band?
Boy, I have a lot of favorite bands. So my favorite new band is Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van Fleet, okay.
That's my favorite new band. I'm an 80s hair band guy, so Def Leppard is probably my favorite 80s band.
All right. First concert?
Kansas at the Forum.
Kansas, really? Oh my God.
Kansas at the Forum.
I recently bought some Kansas records. Just that, I thought, well, they're prog rock. I like prog rock. Maybe they're missing something. You know what? I wasn't.
So their best two songs are my two most hated songs they ever made.
Dust in the Wind, or
Dust in the Wind and Carry On My Wayward Son.
Terrible.
My two most hated songs from Kansas. But I did like them when I was growing up.
And favorite movie?
Oh boy, I tell you what, that's the hardest question in the world because I've got so many movies that I like, and
apparently the hardest question in the world is how you would vote on impeachment.
So I like a lot of movies, and I don't like war movies, but Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite. If it was a comedy, it would be Caddyshack.
Yeah, I love Caddyshack.
And thrillers, there's a lot of great thrillers. I just watched one the other night called Us, and it was really
creepy
good.
As hell, from what I understand.
Very creepy.
Yeah.
There were some points where it made your skin crawl. It was creepy. And I'd watched Jordan Peele's other movie, Get Out, and I thought that was really good too. So I love to watch movies, but if a movie makes you cry, laugh, scared, or something, then it's a good movie.
I
don't need somebody to teach me anything.
That's how I feel about foreign films. My friends, when we go to foreign films, are like, man, I don't want to read.
I don't need to learn at the movie.
I don't know what's going to happen with this election. I assume you're not just running for the 5 months. You want to run.
No, I'm running for both.
For both.
I think everybody is.
Provided that this actually goes into a situation where we're running to the general election, would you be willing to come in for a debate with whoever the other candidate is?
Sure.
Absolutely. Can I hold you to that? We'll do it at the New Hall Auditorium.
Film.
Yeah, you're on film. That's right. We'll do it in front of a sold-out crowd and everything, and make it nice and official.
I think I'm going to have to do a lot of debates. So we're talking about once we get past.
Mine are fun though. You know that. You've done one before. You know.
I'm good. Yes. I'll come in for a debate.
All right. I'll hold you to that then, sir. And the last thing I'm going to ask you is, can you do your best evil villain laugh?
No.
I think you just did.
I think people will get that.
All right. Congressman, I do want to thank you for your time.
Stephen.
Good luck in the election.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again. I am going to ask you about impeachment after everything.
I'm sure you will.
And I hope we can.
And remember, I'm an objective voter, so I'm watching everything.
All right.
And I do believe the Constitution is above everything.
All right, because I was going to send you a copy just in case,
I've read it.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Couple times.
Okay, all right. Sir, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
I do
Stephen.
appreciate
it. Thank you.
We hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to The Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?